I think we're getting into a debate about how we can really transform local economies and have richer communities, and this debate's taking place in this country but also overseas and in Canada as well. Previous to the Preston Model, the community wealth building, we tended to do what a lot of areas did. So we'd try to bring in inward investment. That was probably one of the main strands of what we were trying to achieve, improve skills. So we weren't really getting into the conversation very deeply about how to bring about systemic change. And obviously since 2011, when we were planning some quite major inward investment with the Tide Bond regeneration scheme, we had to think again, because basically we had a situation in which obviously government's cutting back, and also big business might not always be that interested in small cities like Preston, more attracted to central London and places like that. The principles are trying to keep wealth in the community, trying to create wealth as well within the community, and trying to work across a number of partners, mainly large public sector organisations, to build strategies where we have more democratic and resilient economies. What it looks like on the ground is that each of the anchor institutions have shifted the culture. So ourselves as a council, we're not particularly big, so we really bring this to scale if we're working across Preston with a number of organisations. So we've changed the culture to raise wage levels, to purchase locally, to invest locally, and to look at other ways to create more democratic economies, especially around trying to get involved in a cooperative bank within Lancashire, which we're leading on, but also expanding the cooperative economy and looking at investing locally through our pension funds. What that looks like on the ground is there's been £75 million that was brought back to Preston in 2016-17, and that has been repatriated to lots of local businesses here. So say for example our markets, which is a project that's worth around 5 million, about 80% of that went to local companies. We went around the other public sector bodies like the county council and the police and the colleges that we have here, and we tried to persuade them of the merits of getting involved in that. So that was some of the work in the first instance. And then after that we got into this situation in which we changed the culture, especially through procurement. So it wasn't just about looking at price and quality, it was about looking at social value, raising wage levels, supporting local businesses, expanding the social economy. So we got them into that mindset. Community involvement, well, the trade unions and the churches and the religious sector and the voluntary sector have been very supportive of it. So we got the community involved in that respect. In some ways, this has now become very self-sufficient. So each of the public sector organisations involved, now they're very much doing things in their own way, and they're very much inspiring us by what they're doing. So say, for example, Lancashire Constabulary, they're looking to insource some of the contracts back into the public sector. They're paying a real living wage. They're doing stuff around equality and diversity. They're encouraging trade union recognition in the contracts that they do when they go out to tender. Community Gateway, that's insourced works back into the housing cooperative, and they're even employing local people, the tenants, through that process. So in many ways it's deepened and become quite successful. And then the university, they're working with us to expand the cooperative economy. So where there's gaps in the local procurement market, they're looking at forming worker-owned businesses, which is a big part of what we're trying to achieve. What we need to do a lot more of to actually engage with people locally is the statistics, which are showing, for example, the amount of jobs we have in the local economy, the employment rate, which is now very good, way above the North West and the UK, but also the wage levels, especially for people who work within the local authority. So people receiving the living wage are better. Traditionally we're deprived area in Preston, we're now the best out of 14 council areas in Lancashire. Also wages for part-time employees were the best out of 14 council areas in Lancashire as well, and I think these policies have helped a huge amount. We're really lifting people up, which is really positive. What we're doing is we're looking to spread these ideas across the UK, and we're getting interest from about 50 or 60 different sources, which includes the Welsh Assembly, Welsh Water, the Confederation of Social Housing in Wales, a lot of London councils, at least 6 or 7, including some of the mayors that are interested, Birmingham, and the Scottish Government, which has it in its legislative programme. So this is becoming quite a big movement. And what's fascinating is these economic responses are exactly the same, or pretty much the same, in British cities as they are in American cities. So you go to Cleveland or Rochester or Detroit, and the kind of policies they're introducing, advocating around anchor institutions and local banking and energy democracy and assets, keeping the wealth of assets in the community, they're exactly the same. In other authorities, in other places, people tend to frown on new ideas, and I think what people need to do is realise the depth of the problem, because if you look at the outcomes we're getting across the economy in terms of inequality and life expectancy and things like that, we're here to really represent the interests of those people, and to do that we need to do something that's going to be quite substantial, and we can't be skirting around the edges. So I just say take a bit of inspiration from what's happening in Preston, in Cleveland, in Barcelona, in other places, and just try to stick at it, because eventually you will win people over. At first they might feel what you're saying is a bit challenging, but you will eventually win people over.